Okay, so picture this, I'm David, right? Just a regular guy, working my 9 to 5, nothing special. Then bam! The world goes sideways. I was on my way home from the office, stuck in rush hour traffic, same old grind on I-95 North. Suddenly, sirens everywhere, people screaming, not just a few, but a whole symphony of panic. Then I saw it, through the windshield, this guy just, gnawing on another guy. Right there, on the side of the highway. My brain just couldn't process it. It looked like something out of a bad movie, but the blood, it was so real. Then, the guy who was being eaten, or what was left of him, started moving. Twisting, groaning, his eyes milky white, and he lunged at the driver who was still in his car. My stomach flipped. I slammed on the gas, weaving through the stopped cars, adrenaline completely taking over. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew I had to get away from that. The radio was just static, then a crackly voice talking about some kind of outbreak, mass hysteria. Hysteria? This was something else entirely. I saw more people. Some were walking slow, stumbling, their skin pale and torn, but they were shambling towards anyone who still looked alive. Others were running, screaming, but the shamblers were faster than you'd think. I watched a woman, in a business suit, get tackled by one of them, and the sounds, man, I'll never forget those sounds. It was pure, unadulterated horror. I managed to get off the highway, driving through side streets, the city becoming a nightmare. Shops were being looted, people fighting over anything, or just running, aimless and terrified. I saw a family, huddled together in their driveway, and then the father, he just, turned. He wasn't himself anymore. His own wife screamed, a sound of absolute despair, before she, well, you get the picture. It's like the world just forgot how to be human. Everyone looked at everyone else with suspicion. Was that person sick? Were they going to bite? Could I even trust the person next to me? The sheer terror of not knowing, of seeing the familiar twisted into something monstrous, it messes with your head. I'm alone now, holed up in my apartment, trying to figure out what the hell to do next. Food is starting to get scarce, and every creak of the building makes me jump. What would you do if you saw that happening? Just turn tail and run, or try to figure out what's going on. I'm recording this on my phone, a last-ditch effort, maybe someone out there can hear this. If you're listening, please, subscribe to this channel. Like this video. Maybe it's my last chance to. I don't know. Just get this out there. The hunger pangs were constant now. They'd started as a dull ache, easily ignored, but had escalated into a gnawing emptiness that made concentrating impossible. Every shadow seemed to shift, every distant sound amplified. I kept my phone close, the battery indicator a constant source of dread. It was the only way I had to document this, to reach anyone, anywhere, if something happened. The silence of the building was the worst, punctuated only by the groan of stressed metal and the scurrying of unseen things in the walls. I tried to ration what little food I had left, tiny bites that barely registered, but the urge to just devour it all at once was overwhelming. I ventured out again, moving slower this time, listening more intently. The air felt heavy, stagnant. Whatever had caused this, it hadn't just passed through. It had settled in, made itself at home. I peered into more rooms, the same emptiness greeting me. Dust motes danced in the shafts of light that pierced the gloom, illuminating abandoned desks, overturned chairs, and the chilling absence of people. It was as if everyone had just vanished. I found a half-eaten meal on a table in what looked like a mess hall, still on the plate, as if someone had been interrupted mid-bite. The food was dried out, unrecognizable, but the sight of it, so recently prepared, sent a fresh wave of unease through me. Back in my makeshift shelter, I reviewed the footage I'd recorded. Just shaky shots of empty corridors, my own ragged breathing. It felt pathetic, a testament to my fear rather than any meaningful communication. I needed to be more strategic. If this was going to be my last stand, I had to make it count. I started thinking about escape routes, about any way out of this labyrinth of a building. The main entrances were likely blocked or too dangerous. I scanned the walls, looking for anything, any weakness. Then, a faint sound. Not the usual groans of the structure, but something, rhythmic. Like a dull thudding, distant but persistent. It came from deep within the building, the direction I'd been avoiding. My instinct screamed at me to stay put, to hide. But the hunger, the isolation, the sheer crushing weight of the unknown, pushed me forward. I grabbed my phone, securing it in my pocket, and moved towards the sound, each step a gamble. The thudding grew louder, more defined. It was accompanied by a low, guttural moaning that sent shivers down my spine. This was it. Whatever was making that noise, it was the answer, or the end. Okay, so picture this, I'm standing on a fire escape, 3rd floor, in what used to be a pretty decent part of town. It was late afternoon, the sun doing its usual thing, but then the screaming started. Not just 1 or 2 people, man. It was like a wave of pure terror rolling through the city. I peeked over the railing and saw it. A woman, her face mangled, was lunging at some poor guy who was just trying to get to his car. And she wasn't just biting, she was tearing. Ripping. And the guy, he went down. And then he started to get up, but wrong. His eyes were glazed, milky. His skin looked off. Like it was too tight, stretched over bone. And then another one, and another. It was chaos. Pure, unadulterated chaos. My first thought. Run. Just get the hell out of here. But where? Every street I could see was a nightmare. People stumbling, lurching, attacking anything that moved. It was like a bad movie, except it was real, and the smell, oh God, the smell was something else. Blood, decay, and this other smell. Like something rotten and metallic. My stomach lurched, and I had to fight the urge to hurl. I ducked back behind the railing, heart pounding like a drum against my ribs. This wasn't just a riot or some crazed attack. This was something entirely new, something terrifyingly primal. I saw a mom, her purse clutched tight, trying to drag her kid away from a group of them. The kid tripped. And before she could even get to him, one of the shambling things was on him. I couldn't watch. I squeezed my eyes shut, but the sounds were burned into my brain. The gurgles, the tearing, the mother's raw, animalistic scream. It broke something in me, I think. The idea that the world was safe, that people were generally good, it just shattered. I was alone, completely alone, and the world had gone mad. I stayed put for a while, watching the horror unfold from my perch. The initial panic had subsided a little, replaced by this eerie, slow-moving tide of the infected. They weren't fast, not like in the movies, but they were relentless. And there were so many of them. The hunger, though, that was the real killer. I could feel it gnawing at me. I hadn't eaten since breakfast. And the water. I was already thirsty. This was going to be a long, brutal fight, not just against them, but against myself, against the weakness that was starting to creep in. The fear was a cold, constant presence, but the gnawing emptiness in my gut was starting to rival it. I had to move. I had to find food, water, anything. But the thought of stepping out of this relative safety, of facing those things, it was almost too much to bear. Historia 2. It was a Tuesday, I think. Or maybe a Wednesday. Hard to keep track when the sun goes down and all you hear are screams. I was just trying to get home, you know. Stuck in traffic, like always, on the I-95, south of the city. Then it started. The car in front of me swerved, hit the median. The driver got out, and then another car stopped, and a guy jumped out, and started attacking the first guy. Not like a mugging, not like anything I'd ever seen. He was tearing into him. And the first guy, he wasn't exactly fighting back, more like, twitching. Then the first guy's eyes snapped open, and they were, wrong. Milky. And he lunged at the second guy. It was chaos. Cars honking, people screaming, and then, from the cars around me, people started stumbling out. Not walking, stumbling. Groaning. Their skin was mottled, bruised, and their eyes, oh God, their eyes. They looked dead, but hungry. I locked my doors. Tried to reverse, but traffic was a wall. The groaning got closer. I saw a woman, her face half-eaten, gnawing on someone's arm. The sheer savagery of it. It wasn't human. Not anymore. My mind just shut down for a second. What the hell was happening? This wasn't a movie. This was real, and it was happening to me. I had to get out of the car. It was a metal box, sure, but it wouldn't last. Not with them outside. I remember grabbing my backpack from the passenger seat. Just a few essentials, really. A bottle of water I'd forgotten about, some half-eaten granola bars, a flashlight. My phone was dead, of course. Useless. I had to get off the highway. It was a death trap. I kicked out the passenger window, the glass shattering outward, hoping the noise wouldn't attract too much attention. It was a stupid move, probably, but staying put felt even worse. I scrambled out, my heart hammering against my ribs like it wanted to escape. The air was thick with a foul smell, something metallic and rotten. I ran, not really knowing where I was going, just away from the immediate carnage. The highway was a graveyard. Cars everywhere, some burning, and those things shuffling amongst them, drawn by the noise, by the scent of the living. I saw a man try to help a woman who had fallen, and she turned on him, biting his hand. He screamed, a terrible, gurgling sound, and I didn't look back. I couldn't. That image, that sound, it's burned into my brain. I stumbled into a ditch, scraped my knees, but I kept moving, towards the trees. Anything to get away from the open. Anything to hide. I needed to think, but my thoughts were a jumble of terror and disbelief. This was it. The end of everything I knew. My name is Alex. I was just trying to get to my sister's place. She lives across town, and I figured if I could reach her, we'd be safer together. That was the plan, anyway, before this. I was on Elm Street when it all went sideways. 1 minute, people were just milling about, complaining about the weird news reports. The next, it was pure chaos. I saw a guy, looked like he was having some kind of seizure, thrashing on the sidewalk. Then, another person, a woman, she just lunged. Not like a regular attack, but a savage, animalistic thing. She was tearing at him, ripping, and he wasn't even fighting back, just making this awful, wet sound. And then, he started to twitch, his eyes rolling back, that same vacant, hungry look. My stomach churned. I wanted to vomit, but fear had my throat clamped shut. I ducked into an alleyway, the stench of overflowing dumpsters doing little to mask the metallic tang of blood in the air. From my hiding spot, I watched a group of them, the shuffling, groaning, the vacant stares, drag someone out of a car. The screaming it was something I'll never forget. It was primal, raw terror, cut short by sickening tearing sounds. I saw one of them, a woman I think, her face was gone, just mangled flesh, and she was gnawing on an arm like it was a piece of steak. Her jaw moved with a jerky, inhuman rhythm. It wasn't just biting, it was consumption. I had to move. Staying there, frozen, was suicide. My mind was racing, but not in a helpful way. It was a frantic scrabble for survival, a desperate plea to just not be seen. I thought about my sister, about her little apartment. Was she okay? Was she already, like them? That thought sent a fresh wave of ice through me. I couldn't dwell on it. I needed to focus. I needed a weapon. My eyes scanned the alley. A broken broom handle, a rusty pipe. I grabbed the pipe. It was heavy, cold, and felt woefully inadequate. Stepping back out onto the street was like stepping into hell. Cars were abandoned, doors flung open. Bodies littered the pavement, some still, some not. A man, his suit torn, his face a mask of pure horror, was backing away from a shambling figure. He tripped, and before he could even cry out, the thing was on him, its mouth clamped around his neck. The sound of flesh being ripped apart was sickeningly loud. I turned, my heart pounding like a drum against my ribs, and ran. I didn't know where I was going, just away from the carnage, towards the faint hope of trees, of cover, of anything that wasn't this end of the world unfolding before my eyes. I ran with a desperate energy I didn't know I possessed, the image of those grotesquely mangled faces and the sounds of their unnatural hunger seared into my very being. My lungs burned, a fiery ache that mirrored the terror clawing at my throat. The trees offered a sliver of relief, their shadows a welcome respite from the unnatural twilight that had fallen. I plunged into the dense undergrowth, branches whipping at my face and arms, each sting a minor annoyance compared to the primal fear propelling me forward. The sounds of the pursuit, muffled at first, began to sharpen again. They were coming. I stumbled over a root, my ankle twisting painfully. A choked cry escaped my lips, and I scrambled to my feet, adrenaline masking the pain for now. Looking back, I saw them. A group of them, moving with a disturbing speed, their forms distorted in the dim light. Their hunger was a palpable aura, a chilling wave that washed over me even from a distance. They were not like us. Not anymore. The forest floor was a carpet of decaying leaves, offering little sound to betray my passage. I weaved through ancient oaks and tangled vines, searching for a path, any path, that might lead me away from this nightmare. I remembered stories, whispered legends of hidden places, of sanctuaries where those who resisted the change could find refuge. It was a desperate hope, but it was all I had. I broke through a thicket of thorny bushes, my clothes tearing, my skin scratched. Ahead, the trees thinned, revealing a small clearing. In the center stood a dilapidated structure, half hidden by overgrown ivy, an old hunting cabin, perhaps, long forgotten. It was small, insignificant, but it was something. Cover. I dove towards it, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The door hung precariously on one hinge, groaning as I pushed it open. Inside, it was dark and musty, the air thick with the scent of dust and damp wood. I kicked the door shut, fumbling with the decaying latch, praying it would hold. I pressed my ear to the wood, listening. The sounds of my pursuers were closer now, their guttural growls and the snapping of twigs amplified by the silence of the cabin. I scanned the interior, my eyes adjusting to the gloom. A single, small window offered a distorted view of the forest. And then I saw him. Crouched in the corner, his eyes wide with fear, was a child. He couldn't have been more than 7 or 8. He looked as terrified as I felt. He hadn't made a sound, a testament to his own instinct for survival. A soft thud against the door jolted me. Then another, harder. They were testing the structure, trying to find a weakness. The child flinched, pressing himself further into the shadows. I knew I couldn't stay here. This cabin wouldn't hold them for long. But where could we go? The forest was their domain now. I looked at the child, his small face pale and streaked with dirt. He was innocent, caught in this madness just like me. A surge of protectiveness, fierce and unyielding, washed over me. I wouldn't let them have him. I wouldn't let them have anyone else. Another crash, this time against the wall. The cabin shuddered. I grabbed a broken piece of wood that lay on the floor, its end splintered and rough. It was a pathetic weapon, but it was all I had. I moved towards the door, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The child watched me, his gaze a silent plea. The door splintered inwards, a grotesque hand clawing at the opening. I braced myself, the rough wood digging into my palm. The sounds of their hunger were deafening now, a chorus of unholy desire. I took a deep breath, the scent of decay filling my nostrils. Whatever happened next, I would face it. For him. For the hope that somewhere, somehow, there was a way out of this darkness. It started on a Tuesday, in Cleveland. I was just walking home from my shift at the diner, the usual greasy smell of frying bacon clinging to my clothes. Then I saw it. A man, usually so mild-mannered, Mr. Henderson from down the block, was hunched over something on the sidewalk. At first, I thought he'd tripped, but then I saw the blood, and heard the sounds. It wasn't like any scream I'd ever heard. It was raw, guttural, a sound of pure, animalistic need. I froze. People were starting to notice, pointing, shouting. Then, Mr. Henderson's head snapped up, and his eyes, they weren't Mr. Henderson's eyes anymore. They were milky, vacant, and locked onto another person, a woman who was trying to get away. He lunged. It was so fast, so unnatural. I watched, paralyzed, as he, well, you know, devoured her. Right there, on the street. Others started falling. Not just falling, but changing. Their skin went gray, their movements jerky, their mouths twisted into grotesque, hungry snarls. The world just dissolved. Sirens wailed, then cut out. Screams replaced them, then a horrifying silence punctuated by those awful chomping noises. My mind just went blank for a second. It was too much. Too sudden. I didn't think. I just ran. Back towards my apartment, praying it was locked, praying my sister was okay. But the streets were chaos. Cars crashing, people being dragged down. I saw a mom, clutching her baby, trying to fight off a hulking figure, her screams choked off by a sickening crunch. That image, the sheer helplessness of it all, it burned itself into my brain. It made me sick, but it also made something else happen. A cold, hard decision. I had to survive. For her. And for myself. The apartment felt like a tomb when I got there. No answer. Just the echoing silence and the distant, growing chorus of the dead. The lock was busted. My heart sank, a lead weight in my chest. The hope I'd clung to, the idea of a safe haven, shattered like glass. The silence in the apartment was almost worse than the screams outside. I barricaded the door, shoving the heaviest furniture against it, my hands shaking so badly I could barely move the sofa. The dust motes dancing in the slivers of light that pierced the grimy windows seemed like mocking specters. I hadn't seen my sister, Sarah, yet. The thought of her out there, alone, or worse, having already. I couldn't let myself go there. My stomach churned, not from hunger yet, but from sheer, unadulterated terror. I rummaged through the kitchen cupboards, finding a can of beans and a half-empty bottle of water. It felt pathetic, a feast fit for a mouse, but it was all I had. The sounds from the street ebbed and flowed, sometimes a distant roar, other times a chilling, close-up snarl that made me flinch, even behind the makeshift barricade. Every creak of the building, every gust of wind, felt like an impending doom. I pressed my forehead against the cool, rough wood of the door, trying to calm my ragged breathing. Trust was a luxury I could no longer afford. The man who'd been my neighbor yesterday might be one of them today. The woman who'd sold me coffee this morning could be a flesh-eating monster by nightfall. And Sarah. I didn't know if I could even trust my own memories of her anymore, in this twisted new reality. My mind was a battlefield, fear wrestling with a primal need to find her, to protect her. But how? The world outside was a nightmare, and I was trapped, alone, with only the gnawing dread and the faint, putrid stench of death seeping through the cracks. The alley was a dead end, just as I feared. The stench of rot was stronger here, thick and cloying. I pressed myself against the cold brick, straining my ears. A scrabbling sound, closer than I liked. Something was moving in the shadows. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the suffocating silence. I fumbled in my pocket for the small, chipped ceramic shard I'd picked up earlier. It wasn't much, but it was all I had. A flicker of movement caught my eye. Not a human shape, not entirely. It shambled, jerky and uneven, its limbs at odd angles. The moonlight, weak as it was, glinted off something wet and dark on its face. A low growl, a guttural rasp, reached me. It knew I was here. There was no way back. I braced myself, the shard clutched tight. The thing lurched forward, its ragged breath a wet hiss. I didn't wait. I darted to the side, aiming for a narrow gap between two overflowing dumpsters. The creature was slow, but its reach was surprisingly long. I felt a searing pain in my arm as its claw grazed me. I didn't dare look. Scrambling over a low wall, I landed awkwardly in another narrow passage. This one smelled of stale beer and something metallic, coppery. I could hear the creature behind me, its labored movements echoing. I had to keep moving. Sarah. I kept repeating her name, a silent mantra against the rising panic. I found myself back on a street, but it was deserted. Cars lay abandoned, their doors hanging open. A storefront window was shattered, a display of mannequins spilled onto the sidewalk. It felt like a paused moment, a world frozen in terror. Then I saw it, in the dim light spilling from a distant, flickering streetlight. A figure, hunched over something on the ground. My breath hitched. It was too far to make out clearly, but the silhouette, it was too familiar. I ran, ignoring the throbbing in my arm, ignoring the fear clawing at my throat. As I got closer, my hopes surged, then crashed. It wasn't Sarah. It was a woman, her back to me, picking through something that looked like a discarded bag. But then, she turned. It was the woman from the coffee stand. Her eyes, when they met mine, held no recognition, only a vacant hunger. She smiled, a slow, unnerving widening of her mouth that revealed far too many teeth. And then, she started to run towards me. Thank you for joining me on this harrowing journey. As the desolate landscape stretches out behind me, and the chilling echo of that woman's pursuit fades into the wind, I'm reminded, more than ever, of the sheer fragility of our existence and the paramount importance of preparedness. The encounters, the losses, the sheer will to survive, it all boils down to staying one step ahead, to making choices that defy the encroaching despair. The memory of Sarah, a beacon of hope that flickered and died, remains a raw wound. Her absence is a constant testament to how quickly the world can change, how easily those we cherish can be lost to the darkness that now grips us. And then there was the woman from the coffee stand, a chilling embodiment of the transformation that awaits the unprepared. Her vacant eyes, the unnerving smile, it was a visceral reminder that familiarity breeds no immunity. Those who once offered comfort can become the most terrifying threat when the very fabric of humanity unravels. Each encounter, each narrow escape, is a lesson etched into my very being. It's about recognizing the signs, understanding the shift in behavior, and acting decisively. In moments like these, when the world has irrevocably shifted and the familiar faces are replaced by hollowed shells driven by an insatiable need, a cool head is your greatest asset. Panic is a luxury we can no longer afford. Take a breath. Assess your surroundings. Think logically. What are your immediate threats? What resources do you have available? Even the smallest advantage, a clear thought amidst the chaos, can be the difference between life and death. Remember, the most vital tool in your survival kit is your own mind. Keep it sharp, keep it focused. A crucial aspect of staying alive is resourcefulness. Never underestimate the value of something seemingly discarded. The woman from the coffee stand was scavenging, a grim echo of a past life. This highlights a fundamental principle of survival, adaptability and the ability to find utility in the unexpected. Always be scanning your environment for potential supplies, for anything that could be repurposed. A torn piece of fabric could be a bandage, a broken branch a tool. Every item, no matter how insignificant it may seem, could hold the key to your next meal, your next shelter, or your next step forward. The road ahead is uncertain, and the shadows lengthen with every passing moment. But as you navigate your own path, always remember the stories shared. They are not just tales of hardship, but of resilience, of the enduring human spirit. Thank you for bearing witness to these events. May your vigilance never waver, and may you always find the strength to persevere. Please consider subscribing to follow along, and share your thoughts or your own experiences in the comments below. Your voice matters, and together, we can face whatever comes next.